LeBron James and the Lakers, they walked away with a win in this latest showdown. Steph, remember, he hit a go-ahead three with like 5.2 seconds left to put the Warriors up by 1. This is how Steph Curry exited the court after LeBron James went to the line, made those free throws, essentially sealed the game. He ripped his jersey on the way off. We don't usually see this type of emotion on the floor from Steph Curry. He was asked about his frustration after the game.
Our whole season, we've had, some tough breaks, some self-inflicted wounds, some games that, obviously you should have won, and there's disappointment walking over the floor, and like tonight is a night where you feel like you played well enough to win, almost like the SAC game, and again, have nothing to show for it. It just shows that we really want it. We're playing with a little bit of desperation, trying to change the tide of our season, and just don't have nothing to show for it right now.
So, Ramona, last week you said that nothing is going to happen in Golden State until Steph Curry is cool with it. But when you look at that frustration, is this the point that he should be cool with it, that something's going to happen?
I actually think that game was very encouraging for the Warriors, and I'll stand on that I don't think anything happens in Golden State without Steph Curry. I don't know if he says it directly with a wink or a nod through his agent, whatever it is, but they're not going to make any moves to that core and break up that dynastic team unless he's on board with that idea. Brian, you and I have covered LeBron so many years. I think they operate a little differently when it comes time to make really hard decisions, and I don't think Steph wants to be involved in those decisions right now, but I thought Klay Thompson was good in that game. He made a huge shot in that game. Draymond looked great in that game. He said, behind every single one of those Steph threes was a Draymond bone-crushing screen, setting that up. He also allows them to play Kuminga and Andrew Wiggins together. I think that you can't normally do that play those two guys together, but when you have a player as smart as Draymond Green. And so I think Steph, as much as you saw that frustration, I've never seen him rip his jersey. I've seen him throw the mouthpiece. Yeah. Mouthpieces, that's
why, Tim, it stood out to me.
Because he's done a little arm work. You can see, right? He looked a little bit jacked in that. Yeah, he was, but he didn't get all the way down. He couldn't get all the way through it.
He was exhausted. When you were watching that game, Tim, didn't you think he would sit on the bench during timeouts like, oh my God, I need these 30 seconds to recover?
Man, I felt sorry for him. I really did. I had empathy for him watching the game. And this right here, this reaction, what that is what the stat they just put at the bottom of the screen when he was speaking, 32 of these games they've been in. 32 games, one-possession games late. More than any other team in the NBA. And they have come up short too many times in games that they are used to winning. So what that does is it's a gut punch. It's one more gut punch. And on a night when he played that way and made that many big plays down the stretch, historically, since Steph Curry got there, they win those kind of games, and they're not anymore. And I think that's where the frustration's coming out, because it's been too often this year. He feels like, what more can he possibly do? And they walk off the floor frustrated in a late game defeat. That's what that was. I agree with Ramona, though. I just think your options are limited in what you're going to do.
I got to tell you, though, I don't think that Kendrick Perkins is as patient as you do. Am I right about that, Perk?
I'm not, because my next question is, what's next, right? If Steph could go out there and put up a 46-piece wing dinner and they still lose, and you see his frustration, then what's next? If he's not going to go to the front office and he's not going to want to make these hard, tough decisions, then what's next? You're just going to let the season ride out and say, you know what, we're going to make this our last run. We know we're not going anywhere, but let's continue to bring along Jonathan Kuminga and teach him the game. We cannot continue to waste Steph Curry prime. And we're seeing this man do everything and more that he possibly can to try to just get one win. And right now, when I look at it, I'm like, damn, they only one game above the Memphis Grizzlies right now, who have been missing damn near their entire starting lineup. And so I'm thinking about it, I'm like, okay, if it's not going to be a trade, if Steph is not going to voice his opinion, then what the hell is next for the Golden State Warriors this season?
What is next, Brian?
My case is weakening. They're 5 games under 500. I do think Ramona is right. You look at their last 2 losses. They lost by 1 to the Kings, and they lost by 2 to the Lakers. It's not like they're getting blown off the court. The problem is that the most tradable piece they have really is Wiggins. Wiggins is playing average to below average basketball right now. If they traded him, they'd either have to incentivize or they'd get back average-ish players. And I'm not sure it's truly an upgrade. So I'm not saying that there's something that can be done. I just don't think there's a better option other than hoping that record turns around and getting Chris Paul back. And I know that hoping isn't what you want to say at the end of January, but I think it's the best of a lot of bad options.
Yeah, I think, listen, here's the problem. When you start talking about breaking it up, you have to be realistic about what the return is going to be and what that's going to look like. So I understand we might think that, hey, this team can't contend for a championship and you've got Steph Curry on your roster. You're supposed to be doing that. The problem is, what are we talking about? Jettisoning off, Draymond Green, Klay Thompson, Kuminga, like anybody's for sale? And if that's the case, what are you getting back? Younger players, less accomplished players that are going to take more time to season alongside Steph Curry? I mean, that pushes this thing out even further into the future. So that's where I just think it's a really tough spot to be in. And I don't think these internal conversations start easily when you start talking about Draymond Green and Klay Thompson and what they've meant to the organization, particularly Klay. I mean, despite how he's played this year, some players and what they've meant to the organization, they outlive those conversations. They've almost surpassed the ability to even initiate those because it's just what it is. The guys meant too much to them, and unfortunately, they're not good enough to compete or contend. But what you're going to get back won't put you there either, Perk, I don't believe.
Before we go to break, some breaking news here out of the Eastern Conference. Joel Embiid, we were wondering if we were going to see him tonight against the Portland Trailblazers, but Ramona, now that's not the case. What more can you tell us?
Yeah, he's just managing this knee injury, and I think he fully intended to try to play in Denver. He was the one who said to the team, I'm playing, don't even put me on the injury report. But that knee is an issue that he's going to have to manage for the rest of the season. And there's swelling in there. He couldn't even jump before the Denver game. I know he took a lot of flack for all that, but he's not going to play again against Portland. They have a back-to-back, so it's Portland tonight, Golden State the next game.
Yep.
And every time we talk about whether he plays or not plays, we're subtracting from that 65-game total.
Right. We're inching towards that.
Yeah.
At this point, he can only miss 5 more games to still be eligible for the MVP. Embiid, remember, he hasn't played in Denver since 2019. That's 4 years that we have not seen him play in the Mile High City. You can see the breakdown of the games that he's missed there on your screen. On Friday's show, though, Kendrick Perkins, you gave a pep talk. I mean, I was ready after that pep talk to Joel Embiid. You implored him, stand on business, give Jokic his lick back. I don't think I can say that, but that's how you said it, and it was much, much better. Now that he has another DMP in Denver under his belt, what's your word of the day on Embiid?
Well, I'm going Serbian style. Uplusha, okay? And you know what that means in Serbian?
What?
That means scared. And usually I'm joking and laughing about my word of the day, but damn it, Malika, I'm so serious right now when I say this. He's been scared for the last 4 years. I don't want to hear anything about swelling in his knee because he played on a back-to-back when Jokic came into town on Philly and made sure he made himself available. Like, what's really going on? And everyone knows how I feel about Joel Embiid. I think he's one of the most skilled big men to ever play the game of basketball. I think he's the best offensive player in the game today. But at the end of the day, no matter what the rest of the season, as far as him putting up big numbers or even winning the MVP, I will not be impressed anymore until he do something in the playoffs. Like, he cannot continue to get off the hook of ducking that smoke when it comes down to playing Jokic in Denver. We can't do that.
I might need to check with the Jokic brothers or Google Translate on the pronunciation. But whatever word you want to use for it, is it just scared, Ramona, or is there something else going on here?
I mean, listen, he heard you, Perk. Like, he heard the pep talk. That's why he went to the team. When they do the injury report, this is how this works. You know how this goes, Legs and Perk. Like, it's his choice to say, I'm on the injury report. Like, he said, don't even put me on the injury report. I'm playing. I'm playing in this game. He went out and warmed up. He can't even jump. The injuries management staff.
He couldn't jump before the game. That's how much discomfort he was in?
Yes, and he shouldn't have played in that Indiana game.
Okay.
He did. I think that was probably the mistake that was made here because it is important to play in Denver. He knows that. And I actually think, nobody knows that more than Joel Embiid. You don't think he hears all that? He went out to let them boo him. Like, he went out in the fourth quarter and said, I know what's coming. Go ahead and boo me. I know what's happening. It was not even his choice. The injury management staff from the Sixers said, you are not playing. And this injury he has with his knee, I know what you want to say about swelling. He wanted to play. So they're probably going to get fined. The NBA is going to investigate the late scratch. But that was on the star player who said, don't even put me on the report. I want to play.
Right. So now that's the 12th game, right?
Yeah.
Tonight that he will miss. That means if he misses 5 more, he will lose eligibility for MVP and All-NBA honors. We spent so much time on MVP, All-NBA as well, which of course has financial implications. In 1 week, Embiid's dropped from being the favorite following his 70-point performance to a distant third. Legs, do you think his chances are essentially, are they gone? Should we be moving on?
He's hurting, but I don't think that's necessarily reflected just by missing this game. I think that's people also saying, well, wait a second now. He's getting close to that number of games missed. He also, what's wrong with his knee? Like, is that a problem for him to even maybe he doesn't play as well because he's trying to play through an injury? So there's a lot that goes into that more than ducking the game. But here, I think you both are right from this standpoint. Look, if he's got fluid in the knee or he's got some discomfort, it's taken out of his hands as soon as he mentions it to somebody on the medical staff. Boom, out of his hands. He has no more say in that. That's the way the league operates now. But to Perk's point, this is more than just a fluke or misfortune. It's become a thing, man. It's a narrative. 4 years in a row, you have not played in Denver. 4 years in a row. That's beyond an anomaly. That starts to become an actual thing. It's weird to me because he has had dominant statistical games against him and beat him.
Hang on 1 second, Ramona. Go ahead, Brian.
The optics are horrible, bottom line. I know his knee was bothering him. I watched the way he played on Thursday. The optics and the handling of it were terrible. He knows it. The Nuggets know it. The Sixers know it. It's a letdown for the league. The optics were terrible, and he will pay a bit of a price for it, both public relations-wise and within the league.